Oh yeah, Colts Nation. One more week. Now let me ask you right now, how do you feel about this upcoming season? I'm trying to get the temperature of the room here. Are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you anxious? Are you completely pessimistic? Because if you're not excited for the Colts season right now, a week out from Sunday, we're literally playing a regular season game. Anthony Richardson's first regular season start. If you're not excited right now, it's likely that barring some sort of second wind at 12:30 Eastern time on the day of, you're not going to be excited. However you feel right now is likely how you're going to feel. So I'm curious what that's all about. And I think that despite I feel that a lot of us knew that this was a rebuild, a retool, whatever it is that you want to call it, I don't think it hit a lot of us. I don't think we got, boom, smacked in the face with it until last week when we saw that initial 53-man roster. I mean, it became very, very clear, very, very quick that this roster was raw. It was young. You could point to the statistic that we don't have anyone over the age of 30, but it is clear now, if not 3 weeks to a month ago, because it really has been clear this entire time, the Colts roster is in a bit of a building stage. It's in a growing stage. And I think it's super, super important that we set the expectation going into this season. I think throughout the course of the season, we all get so caught up in the week to week, right? And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Of course, if we lose, you get emotional. If we win, get emotional. We want to enjoy that week in and week out. But when we actually look at the season as a whole, we want to make sure that we set some sort of necessary context. So I'm going to be spending this entire week setting expectations from a bunch of different angles, whether it be Chris Ballard, Shane Steichen, Anthony Richardson, the organization as a whole, just so we have the groundwork for what we're looking at coming into this season. Now, this isn't quite one of those episodes, but it's kind of an ease into it because I want to talk a bit about the roster right now. One thing is clear, and it's that there's a lot of guys that maybe we like their talent, but they haven't quite proven themselves yet. And this kind of speaks to where we're at as an organization and as a team. We have a lot of guys that we are not just wanting to play well for us, but need to play well for us if we have any hopes of being competitive, exciting, or whatever it is that the word you want to use to describe a good, entertaining week of football is. We have a lot of guys we need to step up to make that happen. So that's exactly what today's episode is all about. This is going to be 10 players, not named Anthony Richardson, of course, that need to step up for the Colts to find any sort of success in this upcoming season. So let's get right into it. But before we do, of course, my name is Justin. This right here is the Ride the Bench Colts cast. As always, if you're enjoying the video, go ahead, shoot it a like. It's going to help me get out to as many people, Colts fans, as humanly possible. If you're a returning listener, thank you so much for continuing to come around. One question for you is, have you subscribed yet? If you have not, always think about it. I mean, if you're here for time 4, 5, 6, and you enjoy the episodes to some degree, that subscribe button is going to help me out. I don't know exactly the number we're at right now, and I don't know what my next goal is, but I know I'm not at 2,000 yet. So the quest to 2,000 is here, and if you enjoyed the channel, help me get there. But without further ado, let's just get into the episode. I hope you enjoy it, and I want to start with the first player, the cover boy, that the Colts need to step up this season, and that is Alec Pierce. Now, you look at the way that Anthony Richardson plays, or at least the way that he was touted to play, and you look at what we see in training camp so far. Anthony Richardson is a guy that likes to push the ball down the field. Even as we watch him in the preseason, despite the fact that I think he's a bit better than many of us thought early on, he does still have a tendency to kind of skip over that first level, those shorter routes, and try to push the ball down the field. And if you watch, he very, very often is looking for Alec Pierce. And I feel like Alec Pierce has good days and Alec Pierce has bad days. But to me, I think it's very much in the realm of possibilities, maybe not likely, but possible, that Alec Pierce is really contending with Michael Pittman to lead this team in targets. I mean, I think Anthony Richardson likes him that much. And the fact of the matter is that if he is going to get targeted that much by Anthony Richardson, he is going to have to make some plays for us. And we like Pierce's talent. I know some of us are sour on him because of the preseason. He did start slow last year. And again, a lot of people tell you that, but it is true. And he bounced back nicely. We need Pierce to come out and become a bona fide number 2, 1B type of receiver this year if we want Anthony Richardson to find success, particularly if the running game is going to be up and down. And despite the fact we could expect positive yardage out of our backs, we don't exactly have that dynamic guy out of the backfield. Alec Pierce is really going to be the guy that opens this offense up, gives us that vertical threat, and kind of gives us that third piece in this offense that we need to kind of make a complete unit of the wide receivers. Michael Pittman being that intermediate type of fella, Josh Downs underneath in the slot, and then Pierce really taking the top off. But for defenses to respect that, we're going to need him to step up and make some plays. And I'm looking at Alec Pierce this year. I believe in him heavily. I really like his talent. He's got to hold on to the ball. Alec Pierce is a make or break player for the Colts this season. Number 2, how about Matt Gay? I don't feel anyone is talking about this. And I went to training camp, as many of you know, at the beginning of August, I believe the 5th and the 6th. And one thing I had noticed, our kicker that we signed to a 4-year, $22.5 million contract, we signed him to finally get over the kicker woes. Both days I was there, Matt Gay was not in pants. He was literally chatting it up on the sideline. I mean, he did not kick one field goal either day I was there. I don't know if that was the norm throughout training camp, if he didn't kick at all. But then we had him come in the preseason, if you remember, and miss that field goal. I think a lot of us are thinking to ourselves, hey, our kicker woes are over, and I'm not trying to get the bad feng shui going on right now. But I look at Matt Gay as a guy who's been automatic, struggled with some accuracy in his rookie year in Tampa Bay, but then went to the Rams and was over 90% both seasons. We assume he's going to deliver, but I just haven't seen him kick in training camp. And then on top of that, the one kick I see him do in a game, he missed. And for me, it was just nightmarish. The flashbacks were there, and my gut is just kind of, I don't know. The radar is up. Matt Gay is a guy I'm looking at. You can't be successful without a quality kicker and one that's in rhythm. And it's a mental position. It's like a sniper. Not that I know anything about sniping people at all. Point being is that it is you, the ball, and the goalpost. And if you're not locked in, you're going to miss some field goals. And I just don't want to lose sight of the fact that Matt Gay is someone we're relying on. Kickers are your highest scoring guys. And we need him to kick well. And I'm not saying that he's not going to. All I'm saying is that I'm a little worried about this idea of him being automatic. The gut is just off for me. Does that make sense? You ever have a moment like that where it's just your gut? You don't even have a million good reasons. I gave you 2. I didn't see him kick and he missed one in the preseason, and we all expect it to work out. Those are my 3 reasons as to why I'm a little worried about Matt Gay. He needs to deliver for the Colts this year. Number 3, and the guy maybe I am most excited about on this defense. Should I correct myself? No, this guy's definitely up there. E.J. Speed. Now, there was a lot of hubbubaloo about Bobby Okereke leaving to go to the Giants this offseason. Ballard took a lot of flack for that one. And now you look at Shaq Leonard, seems to be healthy enough as to where we could expect him to come out and play early in the season, even if not, full speed week 1, maybe a pitch count, but I think he'll ease in and be okay as the season goes on. Zaire Franklin, homegrown, the leader. This is a guy that's going to be a household name this year. The one guy that we kind of have some questions about what they're bringing to the table is EJ Speed in terms of we don't know his ceiling. I guess we have questions about Shaq in the sense of the health, but we know who the hell he is. EJ Speed, though, is a guy that we're saying, hey, we let Okereke go, who was spectacular for us. EJ Speed, we're relying on you, particularly because we don't have notable depth at the position. Again, you look at Grant Stewart, you look at Segun Olabi, and these are 2 guys that I really like, but it's not quite the established depth we've had in the past. EJ Speed is a guy that's going to have to show to the world why we were okay letting Bobby Okereke go. And trust me right now, he was the guy. That's why we were okay doing it. I have all the faith in the world for him, but it doesn't change the fact that we're relying on him and he's not proven. Thus is the theme of our team. Now, the secondary. I'm looking at Dallis Flowers. Chris Ballard up until recently. Now Jalen Jones is the name that's been going around. Dallis Flowers is a guy that when you asked Chris Ballard about this young secondary throughout the offseason, this was the guy that he pointed to. And it looks like we know Kenny Moore is going to be in the slot. That's been the only given at corner. We've been trying to figure everything else out going into this season. And it seems like at least right now, we know that our starters, and by starters, I mean the guys that are going to get the first crack at the job in week 1, seem to be Darrell Baker Jr. on one side and Dallis Flowers on the other. And you can be worried about that. You can be excited about that. Chris Ballard seems to be very excited about it. Now, whether or not that's true or he's just trying to play to us to make sure we don't panic, that remains to be seen. But Dallis Flowers is a guy, along with Darrell Baker Jr., who, despite the fact that we're all worried about it, when you look at the game against Philadelphia, now I know they were against the backups. I want to give props to Tanner McGee because as a rookie, he has spectacular ball placement. I don't think the Eagles' depth at receiver is great, but in terms of getting a look and knowing the quarterback is going to put the ball in a place where you have to defend it and you get a nice quality rep, I thought we got plenty of those versus the Eagles. And despite the fact that maybe the first drive was just a little bit shaky, ultimately, by the time it was all said and done, Dallis Flowers and Darrell Baker Jr. both made the second corners, or rather the second wide receiver unit of the Philadelphia Eagles, look like a second wide receiver unit. So that was encouraging, or at least just maybe what they should have done, but at least they did that. Dallis Flowers is a guy that if he steps up big, all of a sudden the corner room maybe not as bad as it once was. And the thing about this season is that even if it's rough, even if it's rocky, there are going to be guys that come out of this season that we look at right now and we're not sure about, that we're going to be confident in as starters to get significant playing time moving forward. Dallis Flowers is a guy that at least Chris Ballard thinks has what it takes. Thus, we see in the depth chart, and we'll see how Dallis Flowers does week one. Now, shifting it to the offensive line, let's talk about Bernhard Raimann Jr. This offensive line, I mean, how things have changed over the course of a few years. I mean, this was regarded as one of the best offensive lines, if not the best offensive line in football. You remember those years, early Zeke time, when Dallas kind of had that offensive line that was highly touted? The Colts were next up kind of when all that changed. You know, we got Quentin Nelson, we brought him in. Braden Smith, Ryan Kelly seemed to be in his prime at the time. And we still have those three guys in place. Now, left tackle, you want to talk about a position that we have not been able to get right. Anthony Costanzo is a guy that the Colts lost. And I think when you look around the league, not just in Indianapolis, you look around the league, Anthony Costanzo might have been one of the biggest losses that any team has endured over the course of the past 5 to 10 years that nobody spoke about at all. The Colts have not been able to figure out this left tackle spot since. Bernhard Raimann Jr. had some growing pains last year, but in the second half of the year, really showed the capability he may have to become one of the top left tackles in football. I'm not just saying that in hyperbole. I mean it. He was that good last year, and there are just rave reviews coming out about Bernhard Raimann Jr. throughout the course of this offseason. I'm incredibly excited about him, but if he steps up, and now you look across the line and you have him at left tackle next to Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries, maybe we're not too excited about, but in terms of the continuity, this is the same unit we had for the second half of last year. And then on the outside, you're looking at Braden Smith, assuming he could stay on the field and stay healthy. That offensive line right there, if Bernhard Raimann Jr., who's the guy we have real expectations for and really, you know, are kind of heightening and trying to talk up, he's the guy for me. If he steps up, the entire landscape of this offensive line changes from one that we have questions about to one that is really a strength of this football team. So I'm looking on him. Now, on the line, or really in terms of, I don't know, I tried to segue that. I fucked up. Deion Jackson. That's a guy I'm looking at because JT is probably not going to play for the Colts anytime soon. Obviously, we know the first month is gone. Deion Jackson, despite the fact we know Zach Moss broke his arm, we didn't see much of him, if any of him, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe we're going to get him in the first 2-3 weeks of the season. Deion Jackson, though, kind of looked like he stood alone in this running back room as a guy that really looks to be able to play some pretty good running back. Now, we know he's not Jonathan Taylor. Most people are not. But can Deion Jackson move? Is he a shifty runner? Is he a decisive runner? Can he get us positive yardage, make some plays, be a good receiver out of the backfield? Yes, I think he has those chops. And for this offense to hum, at the end of the day, everyone talks about the need for Jonathan Taylor to be here. Sure, that's fine. But what we're saying when we need Jonathan Taylor is we need a running game that people respect, and we need someone to be dynamic out of the backfield. Deion Jackson is a guy that I think has a chance to provide quite a bit more. And then when you combine him with quite a bit more than we expect, if you combine him with Zach Moss, put them together, that might be able to be some decent production out of the backfield. But in terms of the receiving game being the dual threat, Deion Jackson is a guy that, of course, for obvious reasons, we're relying on heavily. His success is going to be make or break for us this year. Back to the secondary, and I think we're going to go defense all the way out from here on in. Let's talk a little bit about Julian Blackmon. Now, this safety room is incredibly young. Everyone talked about the Bobby Okereke move at linebacker, letting him go to the Giants, and that was the one that everyone was upset about this offseason. My move this offseason, and it was a low-key move and one that a lot of people did not talk about. I thought we really should not have let, what's his name? Rodney McLeod. We should not have let Rodney McLeod Jr. go. This whole secondary is young, from safeties to corners. The only veteran we have is Mike Mitchell, who's a coach, but he's at least close enough in age to the players, along with the fact that he played in recent memory. He's kind of close enough to almost consider him a veteran of the move. He's kind of an assistant secondary coach right now. These guys are young, and Julian Blackmon, if you remember his rookie year, was absolutely sensational. The first half of that year before he tore his Achilles tendon, he was considered to be one of the front runners for Defensive Rookie of the Year. He hasn't quite recaptured that form, but now you let Rodney McLeod go, who took so many of those reps last year, and this organization is looking at Julian Blackmon after moving him to strong safety and saying, hey, brother, it is time now for you to be the guy that we saw in your rookie year. We gave you last year off in terms of expectations, rightfully so, because you're coming off the injury. That is such a bear of an injury to recover from. But now you look at a room that consists primarily of him, Rodney Thomas, and Nick Cross. Julian Blackmon at 24 or 25 years of age is the veteran of that room. He needs to step up and play like it and be a leader in that room and set the example for the safeties. Julian Blackmon being a above average starting safety is vital for the Colts defense this year. I'm looking at him. Now, how about Kenny Moore? I spoke about the need for Dallis Flowers to step up on the outside. At the end of the day, what did I say there? I said if he steps up, this corner room is a little bit better than we thought, but that is under the assumption that Kenny Moore keeps going, or rather gets back to what he was prior to last season. We know last year was an off year, and a lot of us kind of looked at Gus Bradley's scheme. We're just not 100% sure what happened. I mean, we could sit here and try to play coach all we want. We don't fully know why Kenny Moore was off last year. Was it a locker room thing? Was it the money? What was going on? He seems to be locked in this year, and one thing to me that's very telling, all the doubts I had about Kenny Moore were essentially, erased, or by erased, I mean, I don't know, kind of just not put behind. I just want to give him the benefit of the doubt, because when Shane Steichen talks about Kenny Moore, he is just so glowing in the praise that he gets him. And again, with it being Shane Steichen's first year here, it's not like he has a prior connection to Kenny Moore. So the way Steichen talks about Kenny Moore, for me, just kind of goes to show how much he's respected throughout the NFL. And for me, when you hear coaches glow about a player, you know he brings something to the table that other guys that coach has coached does not bring to the table. So Kenny Moore is a guy we need to step up. I think will step up, but his success is make or break. Now, finally, this is technically, if you're counting, this is number 9, but it's 2 guys because it has to be one of them, and it's Kwity Paye and Dayo Odeyingbo. You look at the defensive tackle unit, we already know what it is. I'm on record saying that I think the Colts have a chance to be one of the premier front fours in the NFL. But the potential for that lies in either Kwity Paye or Dayo Odeyingbo really breaking out this season. Now, both of them have the tools. Both of them have Robert Mathis coaching, and both of them have a system that empowers them to step up and rush the passer. Gus Bradley's defense is one that relies on that front four to generate the pressure. All the motivation they need, they should have. If I were to take a guess between these two, it's going to be Dayo Odeyingbo, but either one of them has to step up for the Colts this year. Now, here's the thing about this conversation, because those are the players that I mentioned. You, rightfully so, can name way more players in the comments, and again, that goes to show where we're at as an organization. At the end of the day, you have 11 starters on offense, 11 starters on defense. Well over half of our starters total are guys that we're not 100% sure what we're going to get out of. So as we look at week 1, whatever happens, happens. And as we look through the season, whatever happens. I want everyone to keep that in mind as we go to this season, because we cannot lose track of where we're at as an organization. Now, as an organization, should we be where we're at? Well, that's a discussion for another day. That's some of what we're going to be talking about throughout the week. But until then, congratulations. You've made it to the end of this episode, and enjoy your Labor Day. I'll be giving you another one tomorrow morning, assuming you're watching this on Sunday night. If you're watching this on Monday evening, guess what? The episode's already out. You could go ahead and watch it. You could click the channel. You could go ahead on the recommended on the side. It might be there, but regardless, maybe you don't want to watch it at all. At the very least, just shoot this video a like and subscribe if you're not already. And yeah, we'll get on with our day, right? So until next time, my name is Justin. This right here was the Ride the Bench Coltscast. Go Colts.